Hayden Barnes, one of my close friends and someone I'm lucky to have God place in my life. From blue-collar work to venture into entrepreneurship and running your own company. What was the mindset or the factors that helped you get to this position?
Honestly, man, I think it was just the continuing to grow mindset, never kind of settling. And I've always been, I would say, a hard worker, like no matter what I've kind of put myself into as far as work, whether it was doing landscaping, whether it was doing the coaching now. And I think it's just never being satisfied and wanting more. I kind of started to realize when I was doing landscaping that it wasn't really, something that was satisfying me. And I just wanted more for my life, really. And I kind of got sick of it and fed up. But at the same time, I think something in me, I always had this thing like in me that was just like anytime that I felt like quitting, I thought it was just like that. David Goggins calls it the bitch voice in your head. So I didn't want to quit because I thought it was just that voice.
You were being okay with being unhappy because you were just powering through it, but you're powering through something maybe quitting would have accelerated you in your life.
Yes. So I actually was let go. And so that was actually what kind of sparked it and started my journey away from landscaping and blue-collar work. And I actually thank God for that because I think I would be still doing that kind of stuff today if I didn't. Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful. And it's like, yeah, it's because we're always told, tough through these things. But sometimes knowing when to quit and knowing or like sometimes God will do it for you. He'll close a door that you see. Like you probably were pretty hurt when you got let go. You're like, was I not working hard enough? How am I going to make ends meet? But he's doing you a favor in the long run.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I think that constant looking for improvement every day, because at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen. Like if you're going to get a client like next month or whatever. But if you're working on yourself every day, you're making that investment to then have the skills that someone's going to value you. When you become more valuable 100%. Than like what people are paying you, then you're going to attract that.
Yeah, for sure. I think anything in life, it all starts with self-development, everything. I mean, if you're trying to grow a business, if you're even an intrapreneur trying to grow within an already pre-existing business, I think it all stems from just self, bettering yourself. Really. So
so working in different fields, I guess, from blue collar work, working multiple jobs, and then you went to moving to Tampa, picking up a serving job to make ends meet, and now you're working as an entrepreneur solo, but you have a couple mentors, some good, some not, and on top of that, but like what are the mindsets you've seen, from working with blue collar guys who are just getting there to make ends meet to next the mindsets of like serving industry, and maybe the restaurant you worked at, we've talked about, wasn't exactly the audience you wanted, the customers you wanted. And now it's like, well, now we got a group of guys. We're in Tampa where there's a lot of entrepreneurs. There's a lot of different mindsets. I've seen them in my life. Dude, what have you noticed?
For sure. I'll say one thing is the people who were running the landscaping companies I was working for, you can tell those were the guys that actually enjoyed being there. They actually enjoyed, building the retaining walls, building the garden beds, whatever it was. But the guys that were there just working solely to get paid, you could see that everyone had like a stuck mentality. Like they were only there because they felt like it was their only option. And I feel like that was what it was serving, but obviously in a different field. And everyone with that mentality and kind of mindset, everyone tends to complain because they don't like where they are. And it's just all negative. I mean, I saw very similar things with guys on the landscaping crew and then, servers in the restaurant just complaining about their lives, that they have to do this, that they have to do that. And really the truth is that you don't. And people just feel stuck. And I think people like in our group that we have going here is that we all have, big aspirations and goals, and we all believe that we can actually get there. We don't feel stuck. We feel like that we can achieve. And just with the restaurant, I wanted to quit for so long, dude. But the same thing that I mentioned before, it was that like thing in the back of my mind, like, you're quitting, bro. You can't quit. What do you mean? You're just being a wimp, or, like that kind of negative self-talk. And, but at the end of the day, everyone around me was just so negative, and I knew something wasn't right there. Like, everyone every day when I was working in that restaurant would complain the whole shift. And it wasn't even just about the situation. One thing that kind of opened my eyes is about the people as well, like talking shit on each other. Now, when you're in an environment where everyone's talking shit about each other, you can only imagine what they're talking or saying about you. And then it's not long before that gets to you and your head. And then that starts to change your mindset and your life. And that's when I really had enough, is when I started to see a decline in my own life.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot I want to iterate on this, but it comes to a certain point where I think in our stages, we're still in this growth. We're still growing and becoming the person we want to be. Mm-hmm. So being around people who are positive, like having a group of people, a community, and I urge, if you're looking, you need to go out of your way and really find a group of people who have the same values, foundations, beliefs, and aspirations. Because if you don't have that, because I feel like, I'm now as a server assistant, my restaurant, I think, is a little probably better crowd, better workers than what you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. But you can start to surround yourself with people, because you're making ends meet. But if there is someone negative, when you have that foundation, that community, and that super knowing who you are, it's it doesn't really affect you as much.
Yeah.
But I think that's very interesting when you talk about the landscaping, because that does make a cool point, because you see some people in blue collar work or landscaping, and it's yeah, there are the people who just show up every day. They're showing up every day, just, I don't want to do this. I have to do this, blah, blah, blah. Yep. And the people I do feel for is because at a certain point, if you have 4 kids, you're 45, you don't have an option. And you really don't. You can't quit. There is a certain point where you don't have an option, I think, but where we're at in our lives, so when you're on this self-improvement journey very early, without kids, without obligations, you can make that decision to improve all the time and not get stuck. So for us, it's okay, let's say you have a kid 2 years from now, or it's making that decision would prohibit you from being able to keep developing and set that foundation when you have that family. But the side of that I really liked was that you said, there are some people who are landscaping and they like the artwork of the design and that. And so it's you see some people doing jobs and you're well, why would you do that? But what you don't know is they love it.
They love it, yeah. Can I just touch on something that you said there that I thought was really interesting? As you were saying, I forgot the exact words. I'm blanking on exactly what you said, but it was along the lines that we have the opportunity to actually take the time that we normally would to just do a job like that and better ourselves and actually further ourselves in what we want. One thing that I've seen even in my own life that I'm going to kind of tie this into is when I was in Fargo, my girlfriend was going to NDSU for college, and I had a lot of time, right? I wasn't going to school, and I thought in order to be, hardworking and grinder that I wanted to be, I had this get busy mindset, not so much productive, but get busy. And I was working 4 jobs at one point, filling up a lot of my time with all these pointless jobs that were getting me nowhere. But in my head, I was I'm doing something to make money. I'm keeping busy. I have no free time. This is great. I'm a grinder, just type thing. And when I look back at it, it's okay, sure, I was working 4 jobs, but none of them were pushing me closer to what I actually want to do. So all that time that I was putting into those jobs, I could have easily been putting into something I love to do and been more productive.
Dude, yeah, that's so true. And it's they're not the needle moving activities as much as you're busy. And bro, that just leads me to me and you have talked about Dan Martell being kind of someone we're watching right now. And so I've watched a recent video where he talks about the big rocks first. I know we've talked about this, but so putting imagine a jar and you're putting big rocks in there. And so you're putting big rocks in this jar. And if you start off the day and you put one big rock, so let's say for you, it's getting clients, outreach, TikTok live. That's a big rock. The next big rock is maybe making a system or a process to automate things. It's like those are the big rocks, and you got to put them first because they take energy. So your jar is only like let's say this is glass. You fill up the big rock, and then you can put some pebbles in. The pebbles are maybe maintenance, like journaling, reading the word. Or no, the word is for me, reading the word is a big rock. But like whatever it may be, so journaling, reading another book, that's kind of a pebble, whatever it is. It all depends on your stages in life. But you pick your big rocks, you pick your small rocks, and then you can put the sand on top. So laundry, doing the small things.
Tedious.
And so what I was doing for a while with the podcast, obviously it takes time to get the equipment. It takes time to get this and that. But I was going like the journaling, the reading books, the whatever. And then next thing you know, it's like I've gotten to the end of the day and I haven't read the word and I haven't done this.
And now you can't fit it in there.
I was feeling productive until the end of the day when it's like, I didn't move the needle today. So that kind of goes to say, if you put those big rocks first, you can now fit in, okay, this is like room for whatever it is, and then fill it out with, okay, I can get my laundry done today, the secondary tasks.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're saying.
No, I love that because I think as humans, everyone has the tendency to procrastinate. I don't care how successful you are, who you are. Everyone, it's just human nature to want to push off important things. I don't know what it is, but that's like a huge thing. And if you knock them out in the very beginning of the day before you can even think about procrastinating them, just getting up and getting after it, you're getting a jump start to the day and ticking off those important things early on so you're not pushing it throughout the day. Because I don't know about you, as soon as I start procrastinating and pushing it later on in the day, it just gets further and further and further down the line in the day before all of a sudden I'm either jam-packing it in, like before I go to bed, or I'm not doing it. Yeah, it's not good work either. You actually want to take the time to get it done. So,
Yeah, and I think what's cool is, for you for the longest time, you were working hard in these jobs, and like, let's just say, they weren't maybe moving the needle directly, but putting in the hard work and showing up every day. Because Alex Hormozy talks about, it's like, you're not doing the work, but the work's working on you. So you don't know, like, actually, like, it wasn't moving the direct needle to, like, working towards, your own business, but it was giving you the mindsets and, like, hey, as much as, like, I am working, like, 80 hours a week, like, I'm learning how to do this.
For sure.
How do I translate it? And so something I want to talk about is a book I read recently was The Unfair Advantage, which I've talked about with you by Aaron, our pastor at Radiant Church. But it talks about, and this changed my mindset about work. I've always been a hard worker. I've always brought my all. But your work is like worship to the Lord. And in the Bible, it talks about how work is a good thing. Like work brings meaning. And if you can show up every day and work your hardest as a form of worship to Jesus and like work for him, because it is a form of that. And so that is to transform my mindset. So no matter, like, you're going to be tired. You're going to have nights. Like, I think yesterday was my 4th day in a row working a night shift.
Yeah.
And so your feet hurt, you're whatever, and you're tired. But if you show up and you remind yourself, hey, this work is worship.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like I've started tithing like in the last month, 10%. So directly it is worship because I'm working hard and then I'm tithing my first 10% to God. And so it's directly worship. So I've changed my mindset on like, yo, even when you're not feeling it, let's just keep going. Yeah.
No, for sure. To kind of add to that, there was a podcast, I believe it was Ed Milet was saying this, but he was talking about how, like, I think people who tend to work hard no matter what, even if it's at something that they don't enjoy doing, it's kind of like, if you're working that hard and pushing that hard in something you don't enjoy doing, imagine if you directed that energy and everything towards something that you do love doing and enjoy doing. So say if I were able to stick out 12-hour landscaping days, shoveling rock all day, absolutely hating it, but I'm still working hard, showing up and pushing myself. Imagine what I could do if I translate that into my business, my coaching business. So it's, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just directing your energy to something. And you were talking about giving and like servicing people. And I think like if you're doing something that you enjoy doing, you're kind of doing it out of like the kindness of your own heart. Because not only do you enjoy doing it, but it's like giving back.
Yeah, I think the way Aaron actually phrased it, and you just remind me of it, is like a lot of people say, when I get my dream job, then I'll work hard. But it's like, no, like when you put in the hard work in the job you're in, that's preparation that you're doing for the plans that God has for you. And so it talks about in I think in Genesis, when Joseph, he gets sold into slavery by his brothers, he goes to Egypt and he's working as a slave. But he works hard every day and he shows up and he has no idea of what's going to go on. But every day he shows up and he ends up becoming his right-hand man, and then he ends up getting imprisoned unfairly. And that's like another part of Aaron's book. But basically he shows up and he becomes his right-hand man and is kind of like helping run the household. And so he was showing up every day as a slave. And unfair, like, the name of the book is Unfair Advantage. An unfair situation that you would see, and he had this dream of becoming like his brothers would kind of bow down to him eventually, and he let this dream like be known, and everyone kind of shunned him for it. He got sold into slavery, but through that hard work, he became the right-hand man, and then eventually became second in line in Egypt and was responsible for basically saving Egypt and saving up food for 7 years. They had 7 years of prosperity in food. They saved it up and stockpiled it for then the next 7 years when they had a drought and all the land dried up to then, use those resources in that time. So he became.
So the work ended up paying off. Or
the work paid off. Yeah. And so it goes into a different 7 stories, 7 chapters of Joseph's life that looked unfair, but God used as his advantage. So I would highly recommend reading The Unfair Advantage. It's awesome. It's a super cool book.
Dude, that sounds fire.
So that just reminds me, it's like, do the work as worship, but also if you want your dream job, not working hard at the job you're in right now is not going to like get you there. You got to put in the work. You got to steward what God's put you in right now.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. And I think for someone with like the mindsets of like you and I and people who want to win and want to do something bigger with their lives, I think it's like, it goes without saying almost. It's like you have a task at hand and you want to work hard at it because you want to do it to the best of your ability, So I feel like, and I guess this is for those people out there that are, in a job right now that you don't like and you want to do something bigger with your life. I promise you, just keep working hard, keep showing up, and it will translate over into something else because, God has a plan for you. Right now, you're going through something that you're supposed to go through. This is a learning lesson. And yeah, man, I just keep pushing. I can't say that enough. I think you just got to keep going.
Yeah, for sure. So that's super cool. And me and Hayden met at a run club, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So we met at a run club. One of our buddies, Eric, was like, yo, you want to run 4 more miles? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so then I met Hayden and a couple other guys that day. And it was we ran, and that's kind of how we met. But in the recent few months, you've done a marathon, you've done a half marathon, and you were always in this lifting. You were always lifting, and then you transitioned to more of the hybrid lifestyle. And now, I don't know the exact plans. I know some of them coming up soon, but you're kind of transitioning back to lifting. I just want you to hit on what are the changes you've seen from going lifting to hybrid to possibly back to a different route that I'll let you speak about.
Okay.
And then, what have you seen and how can you assess that?
Yeah. So, no, I like this a lot. So, I first started getting into lifting because, I'm not going to lie. It's like one of those stories that you hear about the kid that gets his heart broken, whatever, nothing going for him. And he just wants to, do something with his life.
Outlet,
yeah. So I first started lifting because exactly that. Early stages on in like middle school, I was never like overweight, but I was always a little bit heavier, not like super overweight, but my friends were all like skater, skinny kids. And like, I wanted to be kind of like my friends. And I do tell, I'm an open book. So I tell people this that ask, but I developed an eating disorder, but I never got diagnosed, but I purposely would starve myself because I wanted to get skinnier, like my friends, basically. That led me to feeling weak, and I just, again, one of those situations where I didn't feel good about myself, wanted to make a change. So then I got into lifting, fell in love with it. I don't recommend this, but I was going like twice a day, sometimes, there, just grinding. And I met some like bodybuilder type friends in Fargo, North Dakota when I was there. And they kind of got me hooked on the actual bodybuilding side of it, not so much just working out for health reasons, but also hopping on stage and doing the cutting and bulking. And I ended up bulking up to like 200 pounds lean. I was pretty lean.
From 135, right?
Yes, I started at 135. And I was like 200 pounds, still had abs and everything. It was pretty cool. And then ever since I moved away from Fargo, I just was it was in between being in Minnesota and going back, or being in Minnesota from Fargo and then moving here. I didn't do much with bodybuilding at all. I didn't really track my food or anything like that. And when we first moved here, I joined the run club, started getting into all the running, started to move a little bit further away from bodybuilding and more so than getting into like just the fitness lifestyle, like healthy lifestyle aspect.
Yeah, a little bit healthier.
Yeah, so then I started just to kind of eat intuitively, run more, train for that marathon, did the marathon, have done a couple half marathons, and I really enjoyed that. But I think, and as weird as it sounds, this is just who I am. I enjoy tracking my food. I enjoy seeing myself go through those changes of bulking and cutting. It makes me feel like I'm working towards something rather than just kind of aimlessly, eating and training. When I am on a bulk or I am on a cut, I'm in the gym and I know that I'm working towards something. So my workouts are just automatically better. So I drifted away. I was doing hybrid for a while, but I think now since I wrapped up that marathon, I'm just missing it a lot. And, there is a bodybuilding competition at the end of 2025 in Clearwater, Florida, in November, and I might hop on stage for men's physique. I think I haven't bought anything yet, but I think I'm gonna shoot for it. So.
Well, you heard that. I mean, putting it out there in the world, dude. That's the thing you got to do. Is a lot of people are scared to air. There's a lot I want to like kind of touch on, but you just brought me to a point. It's like a lot of people are scared to say what they want.
Yeah,
and it is scary because you put yourself out there. You're vulnerable with your goals. But when you start saying to everyone, like I've started doing it, and you can look silly sometimes, but whatever. But when you say, hey. And I almost want you to just be like, yo, I am hopping on stage in 2020.
Yeah.
But the things come up. But it's like you kind of put that out in there in the universe. It's like, hey, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. And so I think – sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say I think I've been telling myself that. But at the same time, I don't really know where I'll be at that time. Like I'm saying like physically.
Physically be.
Physically be.
Oh, like if you're in the right shape?
No. If I'm in here or if I'm in Minnesota, because it's roughly during Thanksgiving. So like it's just one of those things. Like I want to say that, and honestly, I'll say it. I'm gonna hop on stage, but again, it's just one of the
Yeah. No, for sure. I definitely get that in like planning around time.
If it's not that competition, then it'll be a different competition.
For sure. Dude, I can't wait to see it. And honestly, I mean, I'll have you on many times before that, but we'll obviously get to talk after that, which will be huge, and I'll be excited to hear about that. But I can't wait to see the strides you make in the bodybuilding field. And obviously, Hayden, we've touched on a little bit, but his own business, he's a online fitness coach. He went from never doing it before to being a full-time fitness coach, jumping from a server, cutting off all income, having to pay rent, and then making this full pursuit. And so he's a fitness coach that went from 135 pounds and kind of skinnier to 200 pounds in how long?
A
couple of years?
Yeah, a couple of years. And then, since then I'm back down to like 188, but yeah.
Okay, a couple of years. And so it's like, I want to hear more about the business, but I also want to say like, he's done it, right? Like if you're looking at a mentor, you're looking at a coach or like someone who can help you out. I've heard it a lot recently. It's like, why would you listen to someone who hasn't done it? It's like, this guy's done it. So, I mean, I know he's got the mindset side of things down, and I just want to say, like, if you're looking for coaching, tune into my guy. But just a little plug for but I do want to hear it. So what were those steps? What were the steps like going from that? Like, hey, I have $0. I think you had a buddy doing it. So you had a friend doing it, said, hey, this is what I'm doing. TikTok Live's the way I get my leads. You have a decent following on some platforms, but it's like you had honestly close to no leads when you started.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, like, to be completely honest, I'm still fairly new to
You're
all
still
of this.
new, still figuring it out.
Yes. But obviously, in a completely different place than I was. And I think it goes back to just that, never settling mindset, always growing. And I think really, so to kind of dive into what you're saying about my friend that was doing it and give a little bit of backstory of how I got into it and fully transitioned into it. My friend, we had 2 friends, me and my girlfriend, that were doing online coaching back in Minnesota. They showed us the platform that they used on it and where they coach all their clients. So me and Maddie, shout out Maddie, my girlfriend. Rich,
yeah, we'll touch on the relationship.
Bit. But we downloaded the platform, started messing with it, and I kind of tried to do a little bit of coaching. Like, I did have one client there for a little bit that I met on Instagram, and I just started coaching them for fun. And I was doing landscaping at the time. So after that, their time was up with me, and they kind of left my program. I just went back to landscaping, and honestly, landscaping was one of those things I used as excuse to not do the coaching, because I was working 10 to 12 hour days, manual labor, and I was too tired or whatever the case may be when I'm done with it. So then I kind of brushed it off for a long time, didn't do anything with it. Maddie was still kind of doing it a little bit. She had a couple of clients or whatever it was at the time. When we moved here, she was still doing it. I wasn't doing it at all. I saw that she invested into a mentorship and wanted to get better at it. And me knowing that's what I wanted to do too, I was like, okay, I'm going to do the same. Invested in a mentorship. Unfortunately, the mentor that I had signed up with, it was one of these, courses that you see online now, not really a mentor, just a course, not really ethically, not all there. So I kind of was a little bit mad at that situation for a bit, which is whatever, you live, you learn. But I think that kind of drove me away then from it again for a little bit. And I had a couple of clients, but really did nothing with it and was doing the serving still. So it was kind of like one of these things that I wanted to do online coaching. I wanted to pursue the business, but I was also serving, which I was making enough money to make ends meet and, have leftover spending money. And I was just comfortable. At the end of the day, I was just too comfortable. And I almost just pushed coaching to the side because, again, I knew that all my bills were being met and everything. And that was that. It wasn't until I got so fed up with my job serving and I realized what my life was kind of coming to. I was like, okay, so I'm serving here. I'm super, super unhappy doing it. I want to do online coaching and I want to pursue in my business, but I'm not even really working on it. What the hell am I doing? What's going on here? And I've always had, and I don't know, some people could probably say, that this isn't the best thing, but I had a all or nothing mindset. I've always been that way. If I'm going to jump into something, I'm going all in. I know some people like to think about maybe the possible outcomes, but I don't. I just go for things. So as soon as I got fed up with my serving job, and I had my buddy from Minnesota tell me that what he basically did was just quit his job and go all in. It was almost like reassurance, okay, these thoughts are not just me.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah, I'm not crazy.
Other people feel this way too.
Yes, other entrepreneurs feel this way. And so I just told Maddie that I couldn't anymore. And she was actually in the same boat, fed up with.
Well, you said at first, right, because she's more of a cautious kind of person. You said at first she was like, wait, what are you talking about? But then, you kind of told her your side of things and she hopped on board and then she did the same thing.
For sure. So I think it's just, it's different. People have different stress tolerances. Some people can undergo a lot of stress and still keep their cool, keep their calm, and be able to navigate still. And some people, something happens and they get thrown off, right? And they're almost discombobulated. And what, you like that word?
It's just funny. It's just funny. They are, dude. Some people, they can't function when something goes wrong.
Yeah. So I think, and I'm not saying my girlfriend's like that at all, but I just think
she's more cautious.
She's
more
more
discombobulated, but if something doesn't go right,
yes,
she's more thinking of all the things that could go wrong.
Yep.
That might never come to fruition. Whereas you're more like, yo, this could go right.
Yes, exactly. So, and I think in some circumstances, it is like one of those things where you do got to look at it, right? Ed Milet said this in a podcast, like sometimes you do got to look at it a little bit just to like see what's the worst can happen, because most likely the worst thing that could happen is far from like even that bad. You know what I mean?
You quit your job as a server, you take this jump, you miss rent or something. Oh, guess what? You get back as a server.
Yeah, you get exactly.
So
exactly.
It's like the worst thing that can happen. Dude, and I felt this, bro. Like when I was quitting my job, I was seeing this jump, and a lot's happened since then. But I was so worried about what could happen. Like I was like, oh, like I gotta talk to this person and this person. And I had a connection to get the job, and I was like, something could go wrong there. I'm gonna make this person upset. And I was like, nah, dude, the worst that can happen is like I'm not happy in this.
Yeah.
And I was like, the worst that can happen is I get another one. And so I was all stressed about making this decision, talking to my parents, talking to my bosses. And the next thing you know, it's like I made the decision and I quit, and I was like, "Yo, like nothing happened."
Yeah.
Like it's not that bad.
Why was I worrying so much? Yeah, no,
So
seriously. And we talked about this before, but it's one of those things where you're opening a new door, right? And you got to step through it and actually like pursue it. You can't just, if you want to, let's say this podcast, for example, if you want to start a podcast, but look where we are right now. Like you got to step through the door and make it happen. You wouldn't have made any of this happen if you just had thought, I kind of want to do a podcast, but I don't know if I want to quit my job. I don't know. And you know what I mean? You didn't step through that door. It would have never came to fruition. But since you stepped through that door, you figured out, everything. And
bro, everything came to like how it was supposed to be. And like I talked about a little in the first episode, but it was like I was going to go a different route, and I quit my job and I didn't know what I wanted to do. But like one decision at a time, for me, my faith, praying about it, led me to, and I'm learning to abide and read the word and like hear God's words versus what my desires are.
Love it.
And bro, being able to abide and hear like what he has planned for me has allowed me to come on this, like go on this path and come to here. But for sure, and one thing I want to say before like I forget about it is like having that mentor. So something I really want to urge to like the people listening is like looking at a mentor. Obviously, we can talk about this, but you ended up getting one piece of information and then the help of TikTok Live, like two little factors that ended up letting you strive and have like, make ends meet and exceed that. But I want to just urge you, like when you're looking for a mentor online, when you're looking for people, you got to look at what they stand for, their values, their foundations, because if you don't do that, you really don't have a mentor. You just have someone giving you information. Yes,
that is huge. And another thing is like, I think and this has been months since this has happened to me. So I've, grew and learned to look for these things in the future, but also not someone with just like, a big following and some testimonies, but actually a person that's done exactly what you want to do. And that's actually like wanting to help you like achieve what you're striving to achieve. Because like there's some people that are just, they look at you as a dollar sign. I got that I
remember what you told me about this.
I got that sense from him, and it was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like now you're on my program. I got your money. Here's some courses, like figure it out. And honestly, like when I like kind of was learning everything in this course, I got brought up in business with that ethical standpoint, like of, just, grind and make money, not really looking at it as changing people's lives. And I think once I realized that it's not about, seeing the profits go up and more so about how many lives you can touch, not only do you feel more satisfied, in your work, but you get more fulfillment from that, actually helping people out. And it's like what you want to do. It's like what you want to do. You want to make a difference.
Your purpose, bro. It's your passion.
You want to make a difference in the world. Who cares about, how much revenue your business makes? If you're not touching people's hearts and making a difference in the world, it's for nothing, bro. And I don't know about,
so good.
Yeah. And I know you're the same way, man, but like reputation is everything, bro. It is everything. And if you're one of these people out there that, are selling some bullshit course or whatever, just taking people's money, like you can only imagine what your reputation looks like. And I don't know about you, when someone mentions my name, I want to be that person that they're like, oh, that's a good guy. He helped me out with this. He did this for me,
Yeah, I want to say reputation. Well, I want to walk this line interestingly, or like in a way, because reputation, I think there's a balance, right? Like obviously my reputation, I want my reputation with you, someone same values, same foundations, to be great. But someone who's nothing like me, someone who's like, why are you doing a podcast? I have a reputation of cringe or this or that. It's like I really don't. I don't want to say I don't care what anyone thinks, but I don't want to care what others think that aren't on the same route as me.
I agree.
But it comes down to a place where you have mentors, and there's some people out there that are just driven by money, they're driven by the wrong morals, and so that's the kind of reputation you're talking about. So I think if you have solid morals, you're pursuing the things that are high value, helping people, like great. And then you can kind of really, I think, caring what others people think in your close circle and that have the same values and foundations is what's important. But not everyone's going to like you, and I think that's important to know the difference of like, hey, what are my values, morals, and what do the people that I'm close and trust around me think versus, hey, what does everyone else that has no clue who I am or what I stand for think?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to know. They don't know you.
Yeah.
And so I forget who said it, but I heard it the other day, and it was like, it was Tom Holland. And it was in the little
Tom
podcast.
Holland,
it was
out
Tom
of everyone.
Yeah, it was Tom Holland. And he said, like, if you have a problem with me, like, text me. And if you don't have my number, then you don't know me well enough.
Dang.
And I was like.
That's a mic drop and a half. You hear that? that was wild. That's good. That's
good.
And
so it's real. So I think scaling. And now you're, like, working on scaling. And so.
Yes. Wow.
It comes to, looking at digital. So something I talked about in episode 1 is I've started to, we have so much information at our fingertips. We have, number one, books. Books are huge. And then we have digital mentors now. We have YouTube. We have all these different platforms, podcasts, and they're amazing. And so it's like, but you have to pick one or two people for mentors, for whatever, that you have values aligned with, foundations aligned with. And for me, it's like Dan Martell. He's a super cool guy. There's a couple of people, and I like to listen to what he has to say, what habits he implements, and then test them out for myself. So it's important to do that. But let's hear, like, as we go further, you're learning about this business. You just turned 22, so you're young, obviously. But now we're looking to scale. And so there comes a balance between being able to scale. It takes, like, I was just talking about this with someone at the gym. But, having a one-on-one service where you're interacting with every single person isn't scalable.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you bring yourself to make an automated and scalable process while still presenting and being your authentic self? And so that's where I think you're working.
100%.
Because, as a fitness coach, trying to interact with every single person 20 times a day, you can't maintain that.
No. Yeah.
But you want to still have personalized, authentic content. So I think you're working on that. What are the keys? Let's look key or two moving forward to scale your fitness brand. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, honestly, man, like you said, this is something that I'm working through right now. And I think it's having, like, automations and systems in place that will be able to work without me attending to them 24/7, but also still being authentic. So again, like, kind of finding that balance. And I think one thing that's been huge is, like, little things like having, like, accountability checklists and forms with my clients, because even though that I'm not there actually texting them, I have like forms and checklists that are sent out that they need to check off every single day and fill out. And that alone kind of makes it, and it's personalized. So that kind of makes, that's like, I guess, an example of me holding them accountable without actually having to text them like many times a day. And I don't know. I'm figuring out a lot of this stuff as we go. And that's the game, is really just trying to figure it out. But I think that's something that actually, and I'll be like completely honest, that's something that I struggle with, is because I'm such a people pleaser, in the sense that I want to make sure everyone has a really good experience with me and my programs. And so sometimes I can attend too much and almost set like a false expectation of that I will be attending to them that much. And that's one thing that I'm working through and dialing back actually a little bit, so that I'm setting those boundaries and kind of barriers. Like, yes, I am your coach, but also I do have other things that I got to attend to and work on my business. So yes, I am a coach and I will be there for you, but
I can't provide you with texting you 20 times a day.
Exactly.
It comes to setting standards and expectations up front, because I know one of our buddies, Shane, I won't talk about it too much, but we've talked a lot. It's like the standards and expectations you hold are what people expect. So if someone has your number as like, let's just say like a CEO or someone who owns a business, and they're hitting you up for the small things, it's like, well, then they get comfortable and expect that you're going to respond about the small things.
Yeah.
But yeah, in your situation, it's like if someone's asking you, yo, like, should I eat this chicken or this chicken? It's like, okay, well, that's not my job as a coach. Like, I've set macros and I've set all these guidelines, because you want to give them the materials, the tools, and you want to personalize it. But it shouldn't be where you have to like
attend to them 24/7
all times, because you can't maintain that.
See, and I think having, and people think courses are just like I don't know, when people say courses,
people hate on courses.
Yeah.
But dude, there's just information from someone that you resonate with. It's like, okay, some courses, as you know, are very poor. But a lot of courses from people who you resonate with are very good sources of information for a very good price that they've learned over years of experience.
Exactly. So I think what I was going to get into there is just like, I've thought about like courses that I could implement in my programs, to where like if they do have questions like that, I hope to answer all of them in a course that they have access to 24/7. Because I have figured out, and like there's a lot of different things, at least in the fitness realm and aspect, of just like little like tedious questions, like as far as like, should I weigh this like dry or cooked or whatever the case may be? Should I do this then? When should I eat this? It's just, there's a lot of like little questions people could have. And I think like what I'm really trying to, I guess we'll be working on here soon, is making sure that I have all that information like within the program. So if they do have questions like that, they have an outlet to go to then look for that and get it answered, instead of, texting me and having to wait for a response. So I like courses if they're valuable.
They're great. And I think the next thing is, we're in the beginning stages. And I think it's important to dive deep into everything. So like, the whole process, the automation, the outreach, the sales, the maintaining clients, getting repeating clients, whatever. It's all the whole process. But it's like, okay, at a certain time, Dan Martell again, I haven't read it yet, but it's Buy Back Your Time. And it talks about the importance of putting people in place to do the things they can do that buy back your time to do the things that matter. So for you, that's going to be sales.
Yeah.
That's going to be sales. But let's say you don't like sales. Let's say maybe you like building a course. Then maybe you put a salesperson on. You have your personal brand. It draws in leads. And then you have a salesperson or whatever it is. So I'm excited to see how this – and obviously we're learning every day. And I think talking to people like-minded brings ideas. For
sure.
Yeah, so I read a book called The Power of One More. And it's something that's cool to me. It's like one idea, one connection, one conversation with someone could change the direction of your path. And I think that's the key, is like talking to people all the time, because you never know, like, hey, this hits this, and then like for you, it was one thing in your course that got you what, three clients in one day, and they all paid in full.
Yeah, it was. Well, they didn't all pay in full, but I did get 3 clients in one day. But yeah, it was just something that clicked on the sales aspect. But yeah, man, I mean, it's crazy because we're like talking about pieces of information that like you could be like one piece of information away from being like super like successful compared to where you are now. So like you're talking about continually like talking to people like-minded or trying to do the same things. It's like if they were to tell you all of a sudden one piece of information that you didn't know before, and it allows you to convert more people on your sales calls or have a smoother transition into your program, that could make your business skyrocket, and it could just be one conversation or what,
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing I want to dive into is obviously, I think you've been dating Maddie for 2 or 3 years now.
Okay. Yeah.
So I want to ask, like, what are kind of, I see your relationship as a very healthy, like you guys are kind of on the same pursuits of this kind of fitness area, but what are like the keys to, nurturing this healthy relationship so far? And obviously no relationship is perfect, and there's going to be arguments, there's going to be conflicts, but that's part of what makes a relationship so good. And so I want to hear just like, what are some keys and like, what do you want to share about just that side of things?
Yeah, I think
you can put as much or little as you want. This is just kind of a question.
Okay, yeah, no, for sure. And I'm an open book. So for me and Maddie, it's definitely been communication and just kind of, I think understanding that, especially at this age, at 22, 23 years old, we're young. We're still developing, like as far as mindset, as far as maturity, all these things. So I think just communicating, something's wrong or something's up, like making sure that we're communicating it with each other, or if something, ticks the other, someone gets ticked off by the other person doing something, communicating that, not just sitting and stewing in your madness or whatever.
And they don't know.
Yeah, and they don't know. Yeah, that's actually a huge thing, is I feel like a lot of relationships are not transparent, not open enough. So like, something's wrong or something goes wrong, ticks the other person off, and it just kind of is like build up. It builds up, and all of a sudden, the other person lashes out or whatever.
Yeah, one person, like you leave the dish out, and next thing you know, it's a blow up.
Yeah,
because
it's just,
they haven't talked about it. For 2 weeks
for sure. And I want to say too is like, I do talk about our relationship a lot being super healthy, and you mentioned like, no healthy relationship comes without the arguments and stuff like that. We are far from like perfect, right?
There's no such thing.
Yeah, there's no such thing. And that is why, like I mentioned before, like growing together and maturing together and figuring these things out together. Because I promise you, you're always going to go through hardships together, but as long as you communicate and grow together and not apart, you're together, then the relationship will be successful. I think one thing that is really, really helpful is if your significant other is either, aligned and does something similar, or I shouldn't say does something similar, but aligns with what you're doing and supports what you're doing. Yeah. That is huge, because if they're not with it, if they're not with the shits and they're giving you a hard time, or they're they could possibly even be dragging you down without even trying, just like not being with the stuff. And I know we kind of had an experience.
A lot.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying you need a girlfriend that does the exact same things as you. Me and Maddie just end up having the same kind of interests and doing the same things. But us having the same interests and doing the same things makes it super easy to talk to her about all these things, and then we're also supporting each other doing it. So, and
I think that's a deal breaker for me, is like, it should go both ways. Is the deal breaker is that they support you in everything they're doing. So like, right, if I was having like a girl over for dinner or whatever it was, it's like they could come over to my place, and I have my bed in my living room, and I have a podcast studio. And some girls would be like, well, what the heck? You have your bed in your living room and a podcast studio in your bedroom. Like you're just weird. Or like a girl that supports me first time, she could be like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. Like, oh, you're like driving towards these aspirations. That's sick.
Yeah.
And so it's like the first girl, either way, I'm being authentic authentically me. And like I've gotten to the point in my life where, you know, I don't want to say I don't care what others think completely, but like I kind of have let go of what others think, because at the end of the day, like I said, if they don't know me, why would I care what they think?
Yeah.
But I'm being authentically me. The one girl obviously isn't going to support or like kind of get what I'm going for, whereas the other girl is going to be like ride or die, kind of like, hey, this is what you're doing. That's cool. Like you're doing this for the future of, for me, it's my family, for other people and impacting them and for eternity. So it's super cool, I think, on that side. And the last thing I want to say is a lot of people see relationships and a lot of conflicts are from differences. But until you understand that two people are so different, that's what's going to cause conflicts. But understanding that, hey, we have differences, there's going to be conflicts, and the fact that we're going to sort them out is the key to the relationships.
Facts. Like, actually be willing to understand the other person, even though they're completely different. And that's huge. And what you said about, like, you know, the one girl will come here, judge or whatever, and the other girl will understand and support. It's like, even if you want to take a step even further back, it's almost not fair to like either parties, because you're both neither going to understand each other. And if you were to try to make it work, I think it's, not going to lie, a waste of both of your guys' time. Because at the end of the day, like, you guys don't mix well, or whatever the case is. You don't understand each other. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be, you know, down the line married to someone that doesn't understand me and doesn't like what I do or whatever. But
so one lesson you shared with me that I want you to touch on is actually listening to what someone else has said. So you gave this time, it was about 2.5 years ago, I think, if I remember correctly. So I want you to just share this lesson, if you don't mind, that you learned. Do you remember, you know, the time I'm talking about?
With Maddie.
Yeah.
So we were in the car. I forgot where we were coming back from. But Maddie was telling me about like an idea that she had. This was way before we knew about the coaching platform that we were on, and she knew of some app where you could upload your workouts or something, and people could pay for that. Basically a way to monetize like your workout program, but it was a different platform, whatever. So she was talking about how she wanted to go to the gym, and she wanted to record herself just doing like a couple of reps of each movement, just to upload it on this app or whatever, for people. And I don't know what it was, but like when she said that, I was like, well, then you might as well get a workout in, because like she was going to the gym and she had to get a workout in that day. And I was just like, you know, why wouldn't you go there, get a workout in, and then record too? And then she was like, well, I don't want to be like all sweaty or something for the videos. And I was like, well, you're working out. No one really expects you to be, you know, well put together and stuff like that. And it was like everything that she had to say, right, I had something to come back and almost say like, well, hey, do it this way, or hey, do it that way. Almost giving her either, you know, a different way to do it, or maybe
saying she's wrong.
Basically saying she's wrong and that she should do it a different way. And I kind of pushed her a little too far. She basically not snapped, but just was kind of like, I just wish sometimes you could listen to my ideas and not talk. And like, it really hit me, because in the moment I was almost A, giving my input, and B, I don't know, depending on, you know, who you are, you might have thought one way was better than the other, whatever the case may be, but almost like a better option or a better way to do it. That's what I was thinking that was presenting in my head. But when she said that, I kind of took a step back and I was like, man, if I came to Maddie and was like, hey, I'm going to do this and that, I think it's going to be really good for me, this and that. And all of a sudden she goes, well, no, you should do it this way. Well, no, I think this would be better. I would be pretty upset too. And I, low-key, if I was her, I wouldn't want to tell me things.
Yeah.
And it hit really hard, because I was really thinking about it. And again, it was just this one conversation. I was like, wow, sometimes I just need to listen and understand that, you know, she's going to have a different way of doing things or a different point of view or whatever the case may be. And Especially with girls, sometimes they just want to be heard,
Well, I think everyone.
I mean, that's a lot of everybody.
Well, it's just everybody wants to be heard.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone wants to speak too. A lot of people fail to listen. And I think that's where the point we're getting at in our growth journey is, especially for me in this podcast, is, hey, how can I listen? Like, I have 2 ears, one mouth. Like, I need to really set out to intentionally listen, not just listen, because some people can listen, it goes in one ear out the other, but hear what someone's saying.
Yeah.
And you said it like, this feels like yesterday because I learned this lesson so strong.
Yeah.
And you shared it with us, and it opened my eyes.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on something super quick because you said something there. So I think it comes down to when you said, like, listening more, everyone wants to talk. It's ego. It's like ego. It's like we have this ego in us that it's like, well, no, I know the best way, or I know what's good for me.
Or I want to say my part.
Yeah. Or I want my input to be out there. And it's like sometimes, depending on who you're talking to or the environment in, you're the little fish in this big pond with all these sharks, and you need to listen up, bro, and you need to just sit there and take in as much as you can. And a good example of this is my brother. It's so funny we're talking about this because he literally told me this today and was asking for my input. My family.
Hopefully, you can listen to this. You can share this with him.
Yeah, hopefully you're out there. I'll show him this. But so he does animations. Like, he's really, really smart with computer stuff, and he does animations, and he does all of his animations on this thing called Blender. It's like this thing on the computer that, is the platform where you do animations. And he knows someone who is, like, I think he mentioned he was like a freshman in high school or something, someone pretty young. But he's smart, and he knows more on Blender than my brother. And my brother's 20 years old, so he's older. And he was mentioning, he was like, every time I talk to this guy, like, he's really good at what he does, but I almost, like, don't want to listen to him because I almost get a little bit jealous that he's younger than me and he knows more than me on Blender. And he was kind of asking me, like, what are your thoughts? Like, what should I do about this? And it kind of reminded me of what we're talking about. It's ego. Like, my brother, he may be older, right? But this kid knows more as far as this Blender goes. And if my brother actually wants to learn and get better at this, he needs to set his ego to the side. And even though this kid might be younger, he knows more. So setting that ego to the side and listening to what he has to say and see what he's doing, he can actually learn a thing or two from him. And so I think it's, just dialing back that ego.
Yeah, and like knowing that you don't know. So I think the most growth I've been able to make lately is, hey, I know that I don't know so much.
Wait, hold on.
So saying
okay.
like I know that I don't know so much.
Yeah, okay.
So like admitting, like, hey, putting my ego down, because for the longest time I was a person who, I'm right about this, I know this, and it's like, I was 18, 19, 20. It's like, dude, I don't know anything. And so it's like not in a way where it's like I don't believe in myself, but putting my ego down, because like I have skills and I recognize that, and those are my strengths, but there's so much I don't know. And when I'm able to say, hey, I realize that I don't know so much.
Yeah.
That's where you can grow, because you can be like, okay, dude, there's probably like there's anyone. You can learn from anyone, dude. You can look at like 8 to 12-year-old kids who are just loving life. They're grateful. They're not wrapped up in like the world yet. And you can learn from just the way they act in life, just like the innocence, how they just enjoy it.
That's like that always learning mentality. If you think you know everything, you're not going to learn anything new because you think you know everything.
Yeah, if you think you know everything, it's very hard to pick up more things.
Of course.
Learn anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
No, that's cool. And then one more question I wanted to kind of touch on is, I know you got baptized about a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
So what role has your faith played in your life? I guess since you've started pursuing this relationship with Jesus, how has it changed your life mentally? How has it changed your pursuit in business? And why you do what you do?
Yeah, so I think honestly, it's been a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I think sometimes it's really easy for people, and like what I've seen for myself, to kind of like drift away from faith and try to like come back. And I think one thing that I've been really trying to do recently is stay in it. And ever since being baptized, I feel like that was kind of almost like teeing off to me, like staying actually in my faith and growing in it instead of kind of dipping in, coming out, dipping in, coming
it's that
out.
step, bro. You're going public with your faith.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It talks about it in like the Bible, how like Jesus did it. How there's a video that I watched talking about like the reasons why we get baptized, why we go public with our faith, but it holds you kind of. It's a step.
Yeah.
You feel it. It's life-changing.
And the weight off the shoulders thing is, I think one thing that really sticks with me in my mind is that it's on his time and not ours. And I don't know about you, but knowing that he has a plan for me and knowing that I'm going through the things that I'm going through for a reason, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about any, like, I don't know what it is. I've always been, and I've told you this, I've always been a pretty chill person regardless. But knowing that Jesus, God has my back and he has a plan for me, I go through life knowing that it's all going to work out. And that again, I'm going through these things for a reason. He's trying to teach me something. And actually, to add to that point, is also being more aware of your surroundings and looking for opportunities, bro. That's another thing that I've been really trying to learn and push, is just looking for these opportunities. And there was this one example that was like, on a drive, right? You're coming home. You show up to your house. Well, I guess let's just say in this instance, I show up to your house and you go, "Hey, Hayden, how many red cars did you see on your way here?" I'm like, I think I might have saw one. But if before I left my house, you go, "Hey, Hayden, count how many red cars you see on the way here. Let me know when you get here, and then I'll tell you, 10 or whatever the case may be." And it was because I was looking for those red cars, I was able to spot them. So, God puts people in our lives and gives us opportunities. And I think a lot of times people don't see it, but you got to be open and ready for those opportunities.
Yeah, he opens the door, and if you don't take that step of faith, sometimes it's like it's not gonna. He gave you, hey, God, like, why am I not prospering my business? Well, I had this door wide open.
Yeah.
Why didn't you step in? And so it's like sometimes he puts those opportunities right in front of us and we never step in. And so that's huge, because I think the worrying thing, it's in Matthew. I don't know the exact verse. I'm working on, memorizing my scripture right now. But it talks about like not worrying cannot like prevent, like you cannot live one more day worrying. So it just kind of, I had a lot of anxiety around. I had like a time in my life where I was thinking a lot about death. I was thinking about a lot. And it was like a dark, it's scary because you can get wrapped up in that. But when I got into my faith and I was like, no, like God has a plan for me. Like if I died tomorrow, God has a plan for me. And it lifted so much. Like sometimes you can still get wrapped up on it. Dude, life's scary sometimes.
Yeah. But
it's like, hey, in Matthew, it talks about, hey, do not worry. You cannot live another day extra by worrying. That's not the exact scripture. But it's something like that.
It's like you're a prison to your own mind.
Yeah, so then you give all those worries to God and you say, hey, you have a perfect plan for me. Let me just live my life. And that took so much weight off my shoulders.
For real,
it was amazing. No, that's super cool. And
I wanted to touch too on, like you were saying, how it changed like my mindset in my life. And I think community is a huge thing, dude. And like it brings people together too, just like being able to talk about the word and each other's faiths and how we're trying to better each other in that. It's like everyone, I don't know, everyone's just trying to better themselves, and everyone can relate on that, and it makes it super cool to grow together and just community.
Yeah. So I got a couple more questions and one more thing I want to talk about with that, but it's like the red car thing. So, dude, that's and it relates to anything in life. But there's a lot of people have very negative mindsets, and what in a book we're reading called Hero on a Mission right now. And so it's victim mindsets. And so they see the world in a negative sense. They see this as this happens to me, this is unfair, this person's rude, or if you're watching the news, this person's terrible people, the world's a terrible place. And it's like, no. You're looking at those places. Like, yeah, there's things that happen. There's that. But if you, that red card mindset, like, hey, let me see the good in the world.
Yeah.
You wake up, you're grateful. You see, like, hey, this person's giving to these people. This person's helping the homeless people. It's like, if you start seeing the great things people do, it's like, there's both sides. But you can live a life of so much positivity, joy, and, like, living a giving life by making that red car, like you say, just the good deeds in life that people do.
Facts.
So last two questions. These are questions I kind of want on my every podcast. So what's a day currently where you are right now look like? Hayden Barnes, habits, routines. What do you implement that maybe the audience could try out for themselves, things that work for you?
Okay. Yeah. No. So you mentioned like the big rocks in the middle of the day. And I think my big rocks right now are going to be TikTok Live, because that's where I get all of my leads right now. Reaching out to people, like doing cold DMs after my lives as well. And then another thing is just kind of getting more and more familiar with, because I recently switched coaching platforms, as you know.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I'm still learning like how to use it and do little stuff on there. So what a day in the life looks like right now is I wake up and I go for an hour-long walk immediately. I just throw stuff on, go for this walk, drink my coffee, come back, get a little bit of food in me, do an hour-long live session. And then after that, I'll do a little bit of cold DMing, and then also checking up on any clients or any things that I might have to do on like the actual platform. And then after that, it's just like kind of miscellaneous work until roughly like midday.
The secondary, the pebbles. So,
yeah.
So you get up. So I know you talk about this 11 to 7. So right now your habit routine is bed at 11, up at 7.
Yes.
And then you wake up and you go straight on a walk. So now you're getting time for creativity. You're getting out in nature, outside, active, and you're drinking a coffee. So you're getting caffeinated.
Yeah.
You're getting the sun like Huberman talks about. Now you get back, big rock first, TikTok Live, big rock second, outreach, getting clients. Now, secondary task, kind of the pebbles.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah,
no, re-editing what you're saying.
No, you're good. And I think it's just kind of like the smaller pebbles, like little things that
scaling.
that I have to like focus on. And usually I literally map out my day the night before every single day. Like tonight before I go to bed, I'll map out tomorrow and I'll do tomorrow.
I've been doing that too,
yeah. Yeah, so I do it in Google Calendar, just kind of map it out. And then usually I do my calls anywhere like either client calls or future client calls, sales calls. Anywhere from like roughly, sometimes I take them a little bit earlier, like 3 p.m., but usually anywhere from 4 p.m., 5 p.m. to like 7 p.m. And then if I have time, I'll do another live actually at the end of the night. But I think biggest thing for me,
fit in a little big rock at the end if you can.
Yeah, if I can. Yeah, just like throwing it in there I can.
Yeah.
But sometimes, dude, I think the biggest thing for me and is like when I do is doing like TikTok lives, because I've also seen that like one thing that really hit me is the other day someone came into my live and said, yo bro, I was in here like a couple weeks ago and you told me to do this and that and I implemented it, and bro, my progress has been crazy recently. And he like thanked me.
Yeah.
And dude, it hit me. I was like, bro, getting on these lives and just spewing information and being myself is helping people. And like whether I see it or not, but just
there's no monetary gain, there's nothing right now, but it just comes to like driving and making a difference in people's lives.
Yes, bro.
And it will translate down the line.
Yes. And then someone even said the other day, and I am by no means, I don't really call myself an influencer because I don't have like a huge following or anything.
Yeah.
I know I have an influence, but I don't like to call myself an influencer because it's not my like main job.
Coach and content creator.
Yeah.
Fair.
Something like that.
Influencer is thrown around lightly, but making an influence is a huge word. And I think influencer is thrown away in a negative, thrown around in a negative connotation these days.
Yeah, but someone said that came on and same thing was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. And then like he was saying something like how I was his favorite influencer and was saying that he really respects me for taking the time to read all the comments. And it's kind of crazy. I have people coming in my comments saying like, dude, you're super dope for reading all the comments and actually like answering everything thoroughly. And I'm like, isn't that the least I can do? I mean, that's
so most people don't do those things.
Yeah, which is crazy because like that's what I'm on there for. And I want to, help people as much as I can. So I think to wrap that up, what you were talking about is I do TikTok live as much as I can throughout the day, just spreading as much info as I can to people.
And then last big habit, schedule the next day. That sets you up for success. Yep. And then last question before we end this second episode of the process, which has gone amazing.
Let's go.
Thank Hayden for coming on. And it's kind of a deeper question. I know you talked about a couple of things earlier that you struggle with, but what's the hardest adversity that you've faced in your life, and were you able to see a positive return on that down the line when you were in that tough time, you were in the thick of it, you couldn't see it, but now you can kind of reflect on it? What was that adversity you faced or that you've gone through?
Yeah, so I will say, and this is no poor me story. I've told you.
No, this is adversity and overcoming.
Yes, yeah. So, and sometimes I try to not talk about this a whole lot, but I know I mentioned
we talked about this,
my mom. My mom is a huge thing, and she did a good job of raising me and my brother. My dad was always there. I think we had mentioned, though, as we grow up, we then all of a sudden see who our parents actually are. We were talking about
C-Bum talks about it.
C-Bum was talking about this. And I think growing up and just at a young age kind of realizing that some people in my life, a.k.a. my mom, was maybe not the best person in some areas. She lied about a lot of things, wasn't, again, the best person to me and my brother. And I think that kind of I grew up really fast, I feel like. I matured really fast because I had to deal with that. And so I came to my dad at a young age, Dad, why is mom lying all the time? Why does she act like this? And again, no poor me story, but I figured out real fast how to kind of think for myself and just kind of do things on my own, because I knew I had a parent that didn't have my best interest in mind, if that made sense. So I kind of was my dad was always there for me. But even then, that kind of stewed some things up as I was a kid. I had a lot of anger and resentment because I didn't have the average childhood, I guess. Yeah. Got into some trouble at a young age. I honestly don't know if we talked about this or not. I actually don't know if I
think I might know what you're talking about, but we've never really discussed it.
So basically got into some trouble at a young age, meaning that I got a DUI at 16 years old and just was all over the place, did not get good grades, everything like that. And I think dealing with that stuff early on made me, like I was saying before, mature faster. So at the time, I was super down bad, depressed about the whole situation, about, having this thing going on with my mom, not having a license. I just got a DUI at 16 years old. And then I thought the whole world was collapsing, right?
Yeah, and it feels like it when you're in it.
Yeah, it feels like it. And then nowadays I kind of look back at it, and honestly, if I didn't go through that at a younger age then, I would still probably be dealing with this stuff and going through this stuff now. Alcoholism is something that runs on my mom's side. I shouldn't say runs on my mom's side of the family. She kicked it off there by dealing with that. And she kind of then passed that down to me, and at a young age was starting to abuse alcohol. And nowadays I barely drink alcohol. And again, all of that kind of forced me to mature early on. And now I just look back at it and I'm like, man, I'm thankful that happened to me then, so that I could live the life I'm living now and not have to go through that now. Because, dude, there's a lot of people out there that are 25, 30 years old getting their first D-dubs, right? And they're dealing with
Wait, what is that?
a
D-dubs?
DUI. Yeah, it's like it's
Oh.
D-dubs. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
just that or anything they're
Or
facing.
anything. Yeah, that's just in my
awakening
personal,
of some sort.
awakening of some sort, and it's unfortunately further down the line for them.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, and I say fortunately now. Like at the
No.
time again, at that time, life was not looking too good for me.
Yeah.
And, there, with all that stuff going on, suicidal thoughts, all that kind of thing definitely creeped in as well. But again, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be where I am today and have that mindset I do today, period.
That's amazing, man. And wow, that wraps up the podcast on a powerful note. So I just want to thank Hayden Barnes, ladies and gentlemen. That
Thank
was
you
an
for
amazing
having me.
second podcast. He'll be a
Dude, fire.
recurring guest for sure.
Yes, sir.
We can always get into deep conversations off camera, on camera. It happens all the time.
Dude, I know.
So,
we just hit the record button when we start talking.
yeah. So follow my guy, Hayden Barnes Fit.
Yeah, Hayden Barnes Fit on Instagram, and then it's Hayden.BarnesFit on TikTok. So
Yeah, so he's an online fitness coach. He'll help you reach your goals. I would highly recommend, if you need coaching, tune into him. But thank you for coming on. That's
Thank you
episode
for having
2
me.
of The Process.
Let's go,
Peace.
baby.